This episode is for the people who've been hustling, who've been running, who've been trying to keep up, who've been optimizing, grinding, performing, and who are starting to suspect quietly that they are running themselves into the ground. I want to talk to you about rest, but not the kind you're thinking of, not the kind you can buy, not the kind that fits in a weekend, the deeper kind, the kind that actually changes the way you live. Because here's the thing. You can find your purpose, you can do meaningful work, you can love your job, you can try and provide for your family, you can build something real, and still, if you don't learn this part, it will all collapse on you. Or worse, you will collapse in the middle of it and not even remember why you started. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what hustle culture actually is. And let's start by being honest about what we're actually fighting. Hustle culture is not just a set of behaviors. It's not just working too much. It's something deeper and stranger than that. It's an identity. It's a way of proving to yourself, to your parents, to the people you grew up around, to the algorithm that you deserve to take up space. And until you understand that, you will not be able to put it down. Because you cannot wrest your way out of a problem that is fundamentally about worth. Let me say that again, because I think it's the whole episode in one line. You cannot wrest your way out of a problem that is fundamentally about worth. Most people who are trapped in hustle culture are not trapped because they love working. They're trapped because somewhere along the way, they learned that being productive was the price of being lovable, of being valuable, of being safe. They learned that if they stopped moving, something bad would happen. They'd be exposed or replaced or left behind, or maybe just have to feel something they've been outrunning for a long time. If that lands for you, sit with it. Don't push it away. We'll come back to it. Now, let me name a few of the specific lies hustle culture tells, because they're worth pulling apart one by one. Lie number one, more work equals more results. This isn't just wrong, it's measurably wrong. The research has been clear for decades. After a certain number of hours per week, your output doesn't go up, it goes down. You make more mistakes, you make worse decisions, you damage relationships that you will spend years trying to repair. You produce work that you'd have caught the flaws in if you weren't exhausted. The hustle myth tells you that the person working 90 hours a week is twice as productive as the person working 45. The truth is, they're often less productive and they're definitely less creative, wise, and less pleasant to work with. They just look like they're producing more because they're visibly suffering, and we've been trained to mistake visible suffering for value. Lie number two, busy equals important. There's an entire performance economy built around looking busy, posting your 5 a.m. routine, announcing how slammed you are, eating lunch at your desk while making sure people see you eating lunch at your desk. None of this is work. This is theater, it's performance, and the audience is mostly yourself. A lot of busyness is just anxiety wearing a productivity coat. It's the avoidance of stillness dressed up as ambition. Real important work is often done quietly by people who have time to think. Lie number three, rest is a reward you earn. This is the most insidious one. The idea that rest is something you get after you've been productive enough. How many times have you said, once I do this, I deserve rest. Once I do this, then I'll allow myself to take a break. Rest isn't a reward. Rest is a requirement. You don't reward your phone for being used all day by plugging it in. You plug it in because if you don't, it dies. That's not a reward. That's how the thing works. You are a biological organism. You require sleep, food, movement, connection, and stillness. These are not luxuries. These are not earned. They're the baseline conditions under which you function as a human being. Treating them as optional is not toughness. It's a slow form of self-harm dressed up as discipline. Lie number four, if you're not getting ahead, you're falling behind. This is the lie that keeps people running long after they've forgotten where they were going. It assumes life is a race. It assumes there is a finish line. It assumes that people around you are the competition and that standing still equals losing. None of that is true. Life is not a race. There's no finish line. There's only the moment you're in. And the people you think you're racing against are mostly running on the same treadmill you are, wondering when they'll get to stop. You are not falling behind. You're exactly where you are. And the most radical thing you can do in a culture that keeps trying to convince you otherwise is to stop running. Look around and notice that the ground was always solid. Okay, so if hustle culture is built on lies, what's the truth? What does real rest look like? Most people, when they think of rest, think of one of two things. They think of a vacation, a week off somewhere, the big reset. Or they think of collapse. Watch a show, couch, scroll, order food, just shut down for a few hours. I have done both. And both of those have their place. But neither of them is real rest. The vacation is recovery from depletion. The collapse is anesthesia. Real rest is something else entirely. It's something you build into the structure of your life so that you don't keep oscillating between exhaustion and shutdown. Let me give you a more useful frame. Rest isn't a single thing. There are at least 7 different kinds of rest you actually need, and most people are only doing 1 or 2 of them, and wondering why they still feel tired all the time. Physical rest is sleep, but it's also stillness. Lying down without your phone, letting your body actually be a body, not a device you're operating. Mental rest is the absence of input. No podcast, no book, no conversation, just letting your mind run idle. If you can't remember the last time you sat in silence for 10 minutes without reaching for your phone, you have not had mental rest in a long time. Emotional rest is the freedom to not perform. The space where you don't have to be cheerful or composed or strong or interesting, where you can be whatever you actually are. Most adults haven't had this in years. They're always managing how they appear, even with their closest people. Sensory rest is darkness, quiet, the absence of screens and notifications. Your nervous system was not designed to process this much stimulation. It's running on overdrive, whether you notice or not. Social rest is time away from people who require something from you and time with people who don't want anything from you. There's a difference between a draining social interaction and a refueling one. You probably know which is which. The question is whether you've structured your life around that knowledge. Creative rest is letting yourself be the audience instead of the performer. Walking through a beautiful place, looking at something made by someone with care, letting your soul be fed instead of harvested. Spiritual rest is the sense that you belong to something larger than your own striving. For some people, that's faith. For some, it's nature. For some, it's service. For some, it's love. Whatever it is, it's the antidote to the loneliness of feeling like everything depends on you. Look at that list. Be honest. Which of those have you been getting? Which have you been pretending you don't need? Most burnout is not from working too hard. It's from being deficient in 3 or 4 of those 7 for years. Now, here's the second important distinction. Rest is not the same as consumption. This is a thing that almost no one says out loud, but it has to be said. Scrolling is not rest. Watching 3 episodes of anything apart from this podcast is not rest. Drinking is not rest. Eating until you can't feel anything is not rest. These things are what we do when we're depleted, but they don't refill us. They just numb us long enough to face the next day, and they leave us feeling worse. Real rest is often subtraction, not addition. It is less, not more. Less input, less stimulation, less performance, less doing. And here's why most people avoid it. In the silence, when there's nothing distracting you, the things you've been running from start to surface. The grief, the dissatisfaction, the questions you don't want to answer about your life. That's not a reason to avoid rest. That's a reason to rest more. Because those things are still there whether you face them or not. And the cost of not facing them is paying for it in your body, in your relationships, in your slowly disappearing sense of self. The body knows you can lie to yourself for years about being fine. Your nervous system is keeping a more accurate record, and eventually it will hand you the bill. So if rest is so important, and most people when pressed would agree that it is, why don't we do it? Why is it so hard to actually stop? Let me name the real obstacles, because if we don't name them, we'll just feel guilty for not resting and add that to the pile. Obstacle number 1, your identity is built on producing. If you've spent 20 years being the one who gets things done, you don't know who you are when you're not doing them. Resting doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels like a small death. It feels like you're disappearing. Because for as long as you can remember, your value has been measured in output. And without output, what are you? This is the deep work. Realizing that you're a human being with worth that exists prior to anything you produce. That you would still matter if you got nothing done today. That the people who actually love you do not love you because of your resume. Most people will not do this work. They will just keep producing until something forces them to stop, usually their body, sometimes their family, sometimes a crisis they didn't see coming. Don't wait for the forcing. Obstacle 2, you're afraid of falling behind. You look around, everyone seems to be doing more. Everyone seems to be ahead. The algorithm keeps showing you people who woke up earlier, wrote a book better, ran a marathon faster, and built a company that sold for more before lunch. And you think, if I rest, I'll lose ground, I'll never get back. 2 things to say about this. 1, most of what you're seeing online is curated, performed, or outright made up. Real life is not happening at the pace for almost anyone, including the people pretending it is. Number 2, the cost of not resting is also lost ground. It just doesn't show up in a way you can post about. It shows up as the brilliant idea you didn't have because you were too tired. The relationship that quietly drifted because you weren't present. The illness that took 6 months to recover from. The years you spent running that you can never get back. You are losing ground either way. The question is, what kind of ground you're willing to lose? Obstacle 3, rest reveals what you've been avoiding. This is the one no one talks about, but it's maybe the truest one. The reason a lot of people stay busy is that busyness is a beautiful, socially rewarded form of disassociation. You don't have to feel anything. You don't have to look at anything. You don't have to ask whether the life you're building is the life you actually want. Slow down for a weekend with no plans, no input, and no distractions, and watch what surfaces. The grief you haven't grieved, the conversations you've been avoiding, the dreams you've buried, the distractions you've been suppressing. This is why people say they want rest and then sabotage it. They book the massage and then cancel it. They take the vacation and check email twice a day. They sit down to meditate and immediately remember an urgent thing they have to do. The avoidance is not random. The avoidance is the point. If this is you, and it has been me, please hear this. The things you're avoiding are still there. They're operating in the background of every day of your life. The only difference is whether you face them or whether they keep stealing your peace from underneath the floorboards. Obstacle 4, guilt. You know who taught you to feel guilty about resting? Probably someone who was themselves trapped in hustle culture who taught you because they didn't know any other way. Maybe a parent who never stopped working. Maybe a culture that praised exhaustion. Maybe a voice in your own head that you've never questioned. Guilt about rest is a learned response. It is not a moral truth. You can unlearn it, but you have to be willing to feel it without obeying it. To rest while feeling guilty. To not let the guilt be the deciding vote. The first few times you do this, it will feel terrible. By the 10th time, less so. By the 100th, it becomes possible to rest without the inner voice screaming at you. That's not laziness. That's freedom. Obstacle 5, You haven't been given permission. A lot of people are quietly waiting for someone to come along and say, it's okay, you can stop, you've done enough. A boss, a parent, a partner, a culture. Nobody is coming. No one is coming to give you permission to rest. No one is coming to praise you to take a break. The permission has to come from you, and it has to come from inside, and it has to come now. Not when the project is done, not when the kids are older, not when you can afford it, now. The version of you that thinks you can earn your way to permission has been waiting for 15 years and is going to keep waiting forever. Just give it to yourself, out loud if you have to. Today, I'm allowed to rest. Today, I'm allowed to rest. Say it until you start to believe it. Big news, Junie just launched at Kroger and we're celebrating with a free can for you. Because most of us hit that point in the afternoon when our energy dips and our focus starts to fade. Well, that's exactly why we created Junie, a sparkling drink crafted with natural ingredients to lift your mood, sharpen your focus, and give you smooth energy, all without the crash. Now available at Kroger stores, including Ralph's, Fred Meyer, King Soopers, Smith's, and Fry's, where you can grab a free Junie on us. So head to drinkjunie.com/Kroger to claim your free can in-store so you can feel better and live better. Cheers. Okay, practical time. Because I don't want this episode to be one more thing you nod along to and then go back to running yourself into the ground. Here's how you actually start. Step 1, stop trying to manage time. Start managing energy. Time is fixed, energy is not. You can have a 4-hour day that produces more meaningful work than a 14-hour day if those 4 hours are done at full power and the 14 are done at 20%. Start tracking just for a week when in the day you actually have energy, when you do your best thinking, when you crash. Then build your most important work into your peak windows and stop trying to grind through the troughs. Trying to do hard work when you're depleted, it's not virtuous. It's wasteful. You're using a sledgehammer to drive a nail and wondering why the wall keeps breaking. One of my favorite stories is from Stephen Covey. He tells the story of 2 tree cutters. The first tree cutter cuts 1 tree every single day. And in 30 days, he's cut 30 trees. The second woodcutter spends 1 day sharpening, the next day cutting, the next day sharpening, the next day cutting. Even though the second woodcutter only cut trees for 15 days, he cut more trees. If you use the same blunt instrument every single day, it doesn't create more. If your brain is tired, if your body is fatigued, if your mind is overused or overworked, you are not creating more. You're actually trying to do more with much less. Sharpen your mind, sharpen your body, sharpen your energy. Step 2, build the rhythms before you need them. The biggest mistake people make with rest is treating it as something you do when you're already broken. By then it takes weeks to recover and you'll just go right back to the same pattern. Instead, build rest into the rhythm of your life so depletion never gets that deep. Daily rhythms, weekly rhythms, seasonal rhythms. Daily, at least 1 real break in the middle of the day where you stop, eat, and don't look at a screen. A clear end to the workday, a wind down before sleep. Weekly, do this. At least 1 full day where you do not work. Not mostly don't work. Don't work. Seasonally, do this. At least once a year, a real stretch of time off, meaning actually off, not checking in, a week where the world keeps spinning without you. The world will, by the way. It always does. The fact that you're afraid to test it itself is a sign of how badly you need it. Step number 3, get good at saying no. Most overworked people don't have a productivity problem. They have a boundary problem. They take on too much because they don't know how to decline, because they don't want to disappoint, because they're afraid of what people will think. Every yes is a no to something else. Every yes to someone else is a no to yourself. When you say yes to 1 more meeting, you're saying no to thinking. When you're saying yes to 1 more project, you're saying no to your family, your sleep, your health. The trade is real whether you see it or not. Practice saying, thank you, I can't take that on right now. No explanation, no long story, just a sentence. It will feel terrible for the first 10 times, I promise you, but it will get easier. And the people who actually respect you will respect you more for it. Step 4, audit your inputs. Rest is not just what you stop doing, it's also what you stop letting in. How much news do you actually need to see? How many notifications do you actually need to receive? How many people in your feed are leaving you feeling worse, smaller, or more anxious? How many group chats are draining you that you could quietly leave? You don't owe anyone access to you. You don't have to be reachable at all hours. You don't need to know what is happening everywhere all of the time. The constant input is not making you informed, it's making you tired. Cut it back. See what comes back online when you do. Step 5, find one thing that fills you that isn't productive. This is important. One thing you do that has no purpose other than that you love it. Not a side hustle, not a thing you're trying to get good at to monetize. Something that exists purely because being alive is supposed to include joy. Walking somewhere beautiful, cooking a slow meal for no occasion, sitting with a friend with no agenda, reading a book that won't make you smarter, music, making something with your hands that no one else will ever see. The hustle frame will tell you these are wastes of time. The hustle frame is wrong. These are the things that make the rest of it bearable. They're not the leftovers of a good life. They're the substance of one. Step 6, treat yourself like an athlete, not a machine. This is maybe the most useful reframe of all. Elite athletes do not train at maximum every day. They cycle. Hard days, then easy days, heavy seasons, then off seasons. They pay obsessive attention to recovery, sleep, nutrition, mobility, mental state. They know that recovery is not the opposite of training. Recovery is part of training. It's how the adaptation happens. You're an athlete of your own life. Build your weeks the way an athlete builds theirs. Push hard, then recover hard. The machine model, uniform output, no variation, run until broken, is not how human bodies or minds work. It's how you destroy them. I want to leave you with this. Imagine you're 80 years old. You're sitting somewhere quiet. You're looking back at this stretch of your life, the one you're in right now. And the question you're asking yourself is not, did I get enough done? The question is, was I there for it? Was I awake to the years, or did I sleep through them while telling myself I was being productive? Did I see my kids grow up? Or was I behind a screen? Did I notice the seasons? Did I feel my own aliveness? Did I rest enough to actually be present for the life I was working so hard to build? Most people at the end do not regret the work they didn't do. They regret the life they didn't live. They regret the moments they were too tired to be in. They regret the relationships they let thin because they were too busy. They regret not stopping sooner. You don't have to wait until the end to know this. You can know it now. You can act on it now. You can put the phone down today. Take a real walk today. Sleep 8 hours tonight. Say no to the next thing that doesn't matter. Give yourself permission that no one else is going to give you. You are not a machine. You were never supposed to work like one. The hustle will keep telling you otherwise in 100 clever voices every single day. Your job is to learn to recognize that voice and gently, firmly refuse to obey it. Rest is not the enemy of work. Rest is what makes the work possible. For years, for decades, for the long arc of an actual life. The people who do their best work over the longest period are not the people who burn the hottest. They're the people who learned how to keep the fire going without burning the house down. You can be one of those people. You can build a life that doesn't require you to break to sustain it. You can do the work you love and still be there for the people you love and still get to be a person while you're doing it. But it starts today. Not when the seasons slow down, not when the project ends, not when you've earned it. Today. Take a breath, a real one, a deep one, and then go give yourself the rest you've been refusing to take. Remember, I'm forever in your corner, and I'm always rooting for you. See you soon. If you love this episode, you'll love my interview with Kobe Bryant on how to be strategic and obsessive to find your purpose.
What I try to do is just try to be still and understand that emotions come and go. The important thing is to accept them all